everyone. Welcome to the episode of the Let's Do It Afraid podcast. Today, we are very excited. We have a very special guest. She's a podcaster and the host of Live Conversations with a Twist. She's an entrepreneur, a mom, a surrogate, community leader, and a content creator. Everyone, please welcome Heather.
Thank you. Yay! I love being on other people's podcasts. It's so funny when you're a podcaster. You guys know this. When you're on someone else's, you're like so nervous. But when you're hosting, you're like, it's going to be okay. Like, we got this, So it's just funny to be on the other side. But I'm really excited to have this conversation with you guys. And I'm glad that we connected and all the things.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. And sorry about this crazy, hectic morning that we're having today, but it's Monday and that's typical over here.
Yes. I just came off of an event this weekend, so I'm still can I just have one more day of sleep? But it'll be great.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just need one more day. I was at this retreat all weekend and didn't really do anything around my house. So I'm just like, oh, I needed one more day, but here we are.
And this is why we're going to have a whole beautiful conversation about managing it all, right?
Yes. So the first question that we like to ask all of our guests is, what is a fear that you are currently struggling with today?
It's a really good question. I actually have a lot, but I would say the one that's kind of weighing on me is huge shift in my world. We'll dive in a little bit into that, but I started my business about 2 years ago, and because I'm so involved in the event industry and I'm like so known for that, I get pulled into all these projects, which is great. And it's been by financial backing for the last 2 years. But I've hit a wall where I'm like ready to do a huge shift in my life and a huge career change. And there's a lot of fear around that. I don't necessarily think that I'm going to fail, but I think it's like that financial because I am the breadwinner of the family, that there's that fear of what's next? Are we going to get through? And we'll talk about a little bit about what that is and how I've faced my fears my whole life and it's always benefited me. That's like where I'm sitting right now is the financial fear of making a change.
Yeah, we hear that one a lot. I think that's probably the one we hear most often, right, Yvette? It's like something fear it with money, or just like making ends meet or being able to provide. I feel like that's the most common fear that we've heard so far, in all
Yeah.
the time.
I think we also heard that with like single moms as well, because of like how they're the only ones doing it all for the whole entire family. But they're like, what if I don't make it work for my kids within the next coming months? Like, you just never know. But right now, I was just telling Heather before we got on here, how like the economy is just all over the place. So people aren't as easy to donate and things of that nature as they usually would. And I totally understand with this climate of what's going on right now with political, and a lot of people are getting laid off too with like locally, and I've been hearing a lot about that, and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen in the coming months, and I've heard that there's a recession on the way, and we'll see what happens.
But here's the thing, and I've been hearing this message all the time, especially I just came off of a women's retreat, and there's so much more to life than money, right? Yes, fine, we need money to survive, we need money to pay our bills, we need money to live, you need to eat and all the things. But I'm kind of in this mindset, and this is where I'm entering this new part of my life is it doesn't always need to be about that. What if we were just grateful for what we had and we took the time to appreciate spending time with our family and our kids and being around people that fuel us and make us happy. And what if we just changed our focus to be around that, not necessarily the hustle and bustle of I need to financially make it. What if we just let it be and focus on some happier things? What would that do? And so that's something kind of been on my mind a lot lately and something that I want to focus on moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's tough times for a lot of people, but Yvette did have a good point. I think we see that a lot with their single moms, especially. I think they're really struggling. So as we mentioned earlier in the intro, you have a podcast. It is called Live Conversations with a Twist. So first off, how can you tell us a little bit about the podcast? And then also, we know that you recently hired a team to kind of help with the back end of it, the editing and, research and stuff that goes into creating a podcast. Because it's not just coming on here and talking, as a lot of people think. Yeah. There's a lot of background work that goes on. So kind of what inspired you to take that next step, and how has it impacted your podcast journey?
Awesome. Great questions. So Life Conversations with a Twist is coming on its 4th year. And I've been consistent every single week for the last 4 years. And that I feel like is an accomplishment that I need to
Yeah,
celebrate.
it is. Yes.
Because it's a lot, right? They always say the successful podcasts are the ones that are consistent, and it is true. So my podcast concept really came from my background is business development. So a lot of like client relations through my last job. And I would meet these amazing women who, you know, on the outside are these like successful business women, but they're all dealing with something or have dealt with something in their past that has made them stronger. Or, you know, it's like, I think we all put on this front of, you know, everything's okay, but sometimes it's not. And I would get into these like lunches or meetings, and I guess I just have this like presence of people wanting to just basically tell me their whole life story and things that they've never told anybody. And it kind of sparked something in me. I'm like, what if I created a podcast where we people would come on and tell their stories? One, and I've heard a lot of people think it's like very therapeutic, and it's like really good for them to release this news or thoughts and experiences, but then also to inspire others to like own your story. Like sometimes I've had some really crazy stories on, and sometimes when you get dealt things, hard things, you think like your life's going to end. How are you going to get through this? But everybody seems to get through it, and there's some kind of learning lesson behind it. But I really wanted women to come on and tell their story, to be like, I went through this, I got through this, here's what I learned. I'm here to support you, and I want everybody else who listens to this to know that it's going to be okay, or to, you know, build this community. So that's what I've done. I've interviewed, gosh, hundreds of women, mostly here locally in Sonoma County. Now my reach has gone out into like the wider world of the US, which has been really cool. But I hit a point where I love doing this work, but I was doing everything. I was searching for the guest. I was, you know, doing the interviews. I was editing. I was uploading them to the platform. I was marketing it. I was doing the graphics. I was doing everything. And I was like, this was kind of like a pet project. It's becoming a full-time job. I have another job. I own 2 businesses. I have 4 kids. Like, I'm busy. And so somebody in my community said, you need to talk to this guy. He lives in Napa. He has a podcast, and he is very successful in it. I think you should just connect with him. And the one thing, he gave me lots of advice, but he said, if you could really move the needle in your podcast, it would be to outsource the stuff you don't love, like the editing and stuff. And he connected me to a team. They're out of country. So it's more affordable to be able to do that. And I literally now just show up, I interview them, and I pass along the files, and they do everything for me. And it has truly changed like my whole perception on this podcast. And now I can like really focus on finding the right people on the podcast, doing the interviews, thinking kind of bigger. So that's kind of where the podcast is today. And I keep putting this out in the world because this is like something I write in my journal every day. I want to be, sorry, ladies, the #1 podcast in Sonoma County. Like, that is a mission for me. I am super passionate about it. And that's like one of the things I want to focus on, you know, moving on from where my headspace is now. But I love doing this work. I love being on other podcasts. I just want to build up a place of, just happiness and support and this beautiful thing that we all need in our world right now. So,
Yeah, I agree. It's overwhelming. I was under I don't know, when I got the idea to even start a podcast, you know, yes, I knew that it would require work. Of course, everything requires work. I knew that I would have to, you know, think of topics to talk about and questions and do research and all of that stuff, which I was fine with. But you don't really understand or know until you fully get into it. Like, oh my gosh, it's so much work,
so much
you know, and it's like, we're not making money from it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You don't have to have another job. Right.
Totally.
And this is supposed to be like, I don't know, like I don't want to say a pastime or a hobby, but kind of, right? Like a passion project, like a hobby. And so you don't really understand like all the work that goes into it once you start. And it is very overwhelming. It is so much work. And it's not just like coming here and showing up. Like, there's so much things that go behind it, the marketing, the sharing, working together with other people, and editing.
Oh, the editing. I'm like, oh
yeah.
God. I had a system down. Like I mean, I did it. I just brought on a team not even a year ago. So for 3 years, I was basically doing it myself, and it was kind of fun. But then I got to a point where I'm like, there's so much better use. I would rather spend this time researching other podcasts to be on, going out and looking for new guests that are really cool and inspiring. You know, like I'd rather do that work. And so yeah, it's like you finally hit a wall where you're like, oh, okay, something's got to change. Yeah.
And I
I
mean,
would love to
Yvette
make
and I,
money. That's my goal now. I want to make money doing it, and not
yeah.
because like again, like it's not like for a selfish reason, but because
Mhm.
I've put in the work, I feel like I kind of I've earned that, right? And so but that's the part is like how do you grow your podcast? How do you get more listeners? How I mean, that's the exhausting part that people don't realize needs to happen in order to make money.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, Yvette and I are kind of doing this together. So we, in a way, kind of split up, certain responsibilities and things like that. But when you were doing it all by yourself, I can't even imagine.
It's a
Yeah.
lot.
That's
But I
a
love
lot.
it.
Yeah.
There's definitely some days where I know you guys do a lot of you're recording on like one day of the week. I was doing two, and now I've broke it into just one, because it can be hard to like change. Like you could be working on a project for your business and then like have to like switch gears to interview someone. It was really hard. So now I do it on Fridays. That has been super. I've been really happy that I did that because we all get busy during the week. We're like, yay, it's Friday. I feel uninspired. I'm so over it. And then I get on this podcast interview with these women, and I'm just like, this is like, for some reason, the way the schedule ends up, I'm like, I needed this message today for whatever reason. And so has been really inspiring for me too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good to hear. I like that viewpoint. You're right. Fridays, it's, everyone's like tired, but it's nice to have something to look forward to. And I always feel really excited on Fridays.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can imagine.
But
And
Monday's a great thing too, right? Because
yeah.
every time you have these conversations, you're like, you just feel like so inspired and so empowered, and you take this energy and you go out in the world. So I mean, that's when I used to do it, was Monday too, and it was like such a great way to start the week. So, but I always like sometimes get psyched out. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do this today. And then as soon as I get on, there's not been one interview I've been on that where I'm like, oh, that was so worth it, you know? So.
I agree. I agree. I feel like we always get that little kick out of our week. And it, like, for me, it's the greatest way to start my Mondays. And it was something that I always look forward to by the weekend. I'm like, it's going to be Monday. But now I'm like, okay, I get to interview this amazing person. And now I'm looking forward to my Monday. And I'm excited for this interview.
Yeah, thank you. Me too.
We used to do it on Tuesday, or I think when we first thought about doing it, we thought about maybe doing it on Tuesdays. And Yvette was like, no, let's do it on Monday, because that way we can like start the week and we'll be really excited and it'll like motivate us and inspire us for the rest of the week. So it has worked really nice for us.
Love it.
So I agree. So you are a mom and an entrepreneur. We've gotten a lot of questions recently about how as I feel like a lot of our listeners are moms, and we've gotten a lot of questions, for moms kind of saying like, how do you find time for yourself? How do you do all three things? How do you work? How do you, how are you dealing with being a mom? And then also how do you take care of yourself? Like, how do you find, what are some suggestions for kind of finding hobbies again? That's some of the questions that we've gotten recently. So I think that this is also a perfect question to kind of ask you. How do you balance it all, being a mom, an entrepreneur, and also taking care of yourself and finding hobbies and things like that?
Such a loaded question.
I know.
You get
Sorry.
asked this all the time. No, I literally, if I talk to anybody, they're like, I don't know how you do it. Like I have stay-at-home moms who don't have jobs, and they're like, I don't know how you do it. And there's a lot of answers to that. My number one thing is I have a really great community around me and people to help me. So when it comes to like my kids, I do want to say, so I have 4 kids. I have a 19-year-old who's in college, so she's doing her own thing. I have a 14-year-old daughter, an 11-year-old son. I split time with them, so I don't have them full time. So I do have to say like that is it makes things a little bit easier because I don't have to bust them around every single day, but every other week I do. And then I have a 3.5-year-old who is just full of energy and just totally has rocked our world. But when it comes to like my older kids, I've really leaned on like my group of women friends, and my friends moms, to really help with, can you pick my kid up from school? Thankfully, because being an entrepreneur, you have the luxury of kind of like creating your own schedule. And so I think that's one of the things that I value so much in being an entrepreneur is to be able to have that time. I would never go back to working for somebody and having to work 8 to 5. There's no way. So I really try and be very thoughtful about my time, especially the weeks I have my kids. I really try not to work late. I try to just go to work when they're at school, pick them up from school, and then be present with them when I get home. And it's interesting because it's a different mind shift of instead of just having your kids all the time. Like I'm like, okay, this week I say no to a lot more things. And I really try to be present with them. And then I think that the support of your spouse, right now in the current state we're in, my husband is on disability. He got hurt at work. And so he had back surgery a year and a half ago. So he is currently home, which that has been kind of a blessing because he's been able to help with the 3-year-old and pick him up from school and do some of those chores to allow me to do all of this other work. And I don't think I could do it without him. I think the support that he allows me to go do whatever you want, go be on a podcast, go if you need to work 12 hours a day, like I got it. So I definitely have to give a shout out to him because I don't think in this time of life being able to manage it, I would not be able to do it single. So I do see those single moms. I get it. I was single for a part of my time between my different marriages. But I, again, relying on community, if you have family around here, asking them to watch the kids or help with the kids, or asking your kids' parents, like, hey, do you mind taking my son for a couple hours so I can go get a pedicure or go on a walk with a friend, or, find things that still bring you joy and just, change that a little bit. Sometimes it's even like the little things where if you do have children, it's like, okay, let's have like a play group, but like, let's have a play group with like a mom that's like cool and you want to hang out so it's kind of like you're with your kids and they're playing, but like you get a little time for yourself. So I would say that if for a single mom, that might be something that they can, lean on. And I'm really good about managing my time. I'm very strict. Like I said, like podcast is Fridays, Mondays are personal days or business days. I really struggle with Mondays. And so I like to start my Mondays like doing something that really makes me happy. And then kind of like time blocking, like this day I'm going to, work on this business, or this day I'm going to work on this business. Time for myself. I've always been a big supporter. I've talked about this multiple times on other podcasts, my podcast. Self-care is super, super important. It's very important to me. I always take time to hang out with a friend. I go for a walk with friends. I never like I've learned to say no now. But if it's a friend who I know is gonna like uplift me and make me feel better, I will always say yes. I take a lot of time for myself in the mornings. I know that everybody probably hates hearing this, but I do get up early and I do work out and I do things for myself. Because I think that time is important. And then I've now shifted to a nighttime routine. So while the kids are kind of like doing homework or, taking their own showers and baths and kind of unwinding for the day, I'll like go wash my face and journal and kind of do some quiet time by myself, just to kind of unwind for the day. So I definitely have found time for that. So that's kind of like some of the key things that I have focused on. And that's been able to feel manageable. And I'm a super list task person. Like I have lists everywhere. I handwrite lists. I I have a list on my computer. I have a list on my phone. A list. I put everything on my calendar. But that's what kind of keeps me focused. So when I am working, I'm very focused on like one or two things, and be able to like check that off. Or if I get a thought about something that I have to do, like grocery shop or something like that, I just put it on a list, or I put it on a day that I can focus on it. And I'm a huge Instacart shopper. Like people talk about managing time. Going to the grocery store, like I used to go like once a week, would take a couple hours by the time you drive there. I always get stressed out because everyone's rude. You spend more money than you need to. And so I've totally pivoted my whole grocery thing to Instacart, and it has literally saved my life. I could be in a meeting and like ordering groceries, and by the time I get home, everything's there. So that's probably like my number one app that I use all the time. It's like finding those things that like literally take so much time out of your life, and you're like, how can this be faster? Or how do I get my time back by doing this task?
Yeah, I'm big on lists too. So I hear you. And I'm big on time management. Everything's on a calendar, everything's on my phone. And like you said, if I get an idea, it's like I go put it in my notes. I write it down really quickly I have sticky notes all over my house, like in my, like not on the walls, but like easy where I can easily access them and write something down really fast.
I love when people have them in their car, like you walk by their car and there's like stickies everywhere. But I'm like, hey, whatever works for you works.
Yeah, I just have them easily accessible anywhere, so I can grab the sticky pad and just write something down and leave it there and get back to it when I have time. So I definitely hear you on that. It's a lot about time management. It's a lot about, finding a way to stay organized in a way.
Yep.
And then obviously self-care, we always say that it's super, super important. My self-care day is always like Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I need it in the middle of the week.
Yep.
So that's where I always have my nail. Like if I have a nail appointment, it's going to be on Wednesday. If I have a hair appointment, it's going to be on Wednesday. If I have a facial appointment, it's going to be on a Wednesday. That's kind of my self-care day. And I try not to book anything else on Wednesdays unless I absolutely have to. And, I love going to the gym too. So I always want to make sure that I'm moving my body in some way, even if it's just 10, 15 minutes a day or an hour a day, like whatever I have time for that day. I love to read. So that's always been my escape. So I always tell people, find, when I started therapy, she just started really asking me a lot of questions about like, what did little Mayra like to do? When you were little and you didn't have all these responsibilities and, life was hard or something. What was something that you loved to do? And I was like, reading. I loved reading. So I picked that back up the last year and it's been life-saving for me. So I would encourage people to kind of do that as well. Kind of ask yourself when you were a little girl, a little boy, and there wasn't all this crazy noise around you and you weren't a mom and you weren't a wife, or you weren't a husband, what was something that brought you a lot of joy and made you really happy, and find a way to incorporate that in your life somehow.
So good. I've been doing puzzles lately with my kids. There's my two boys love doing puzzles, so I've been doing puzzles. I love to color too. So I totally agree. Like sometimes it's like going back to the roots of when things were easy and quiet and like what did you do? I think that's super important. And the one thing that and I know we'll talk about the women's retreats, but one thing that I have seen by doing these is that women are taking time away for themselves. And I mean not like 2 hours. I mean like a retreat, an overnight with a friend, like even if it's once a year to like go out of town with your girlfriends and just be and have fun and drink wine and have conversations and sleep in and do whatever you want to do, like that to me is priceless.
Yeah. Yeah.
That always fuels the soul. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never done anything like, I mean, I've taken a few hours to myself here or there, or, gone away for the weekend with my husband kind of a thing, but I've never done, since I've been married, I've never done anything like that. I don't know if it's because of mom guilt, to be very honest, or if it's because I just love to be around my kids and I don't like to be away from them. Like, I feel like I can't separate those two things. Like, I'm not sure if they're just so interconnected in me that I don't even know which one it is. Like, is it because I want to be with my kids all the time and I feel so much joy when I'm around them, and I know that I only get to have them for such a short period of time? When somebody says like you only have 18 summers with your kids, like that just like killed me,
Well, what's 2 nights out of a year?
Yeah, I know. So then
honestly,
I'm like, I don't know, like, is it that, or is it the mom guilt that's not allowing me to do that? So I have to do like my own inner work and kind of figure that out. But I do, if that is something that you feel comfortable with and you are open to, I think it's great. I've heard so many women talk about retreats and just going away, or even going to a nearby hotel, and just like having that time for yourself. One of my friends was saying, because we both love to read, she's like, we should get a hotel room, like right next to each other. And we can just like, you'll be in your room reading and I'll be in my room reading. And then we'll have a door that's interconnected and we can go back and forth and like have lunch or talk about what we're reading. And I'm like, yeah, that would be really cool. So definitely if I do encourage people to do that if they can, because I've heard a lot of positive stories from it.
we just got a video from our retreat that was 2 weeks ago from one of the attendees, and she was one that she has little. She has like a 1 and a 4-year-old, has never been away from them. This was like her first time away, and like I literally get chills, and it probably might make me cry to hear her video of how impactful that was to leave her space and her home to like find herself again. I was like, this is exactly why we do retreats, because that is the impact, right? And now she's going back and she's going to be a better mom, and she's going to show up for herself better, and she's going to show up for her kids better. And that to me is exactly why you should do it. So you should try it. You can come to our next one.
Thank you. Yes. Keep me updated. Let me know.
I will.
I was thinking of that. I was thinking of everything Mayra was saying, because also like the first time I ever left my kids, or like, I mean, my mother-in-law died, and that's the only time I ever left my kids and had to leave. And we were flying out, and the whole time like my anxiety was through the roof. Like normally turbulence does it, but just thinking about being away from my kids was really bad. And so I was like, what am I doing here? I shouldn't be here. My kids should be here with me. This is their grandma, like the whole entire time. So like I'm like, I should be here to be present. So that most of the time I was there for my husband and like trying to process things, but we were just so in shock of things that had just happened. And we didn't really like, get to digest, or maybe I don't cry. Like it's the weirdest things. Like I didn't really experience death as close as this before. And so I felt like a robot kind of, and like just numb, and just, I don't know. I feel like I just didn't process, until after the fact. But after we came back, and just leaving my kids was just bad. I was like, what am I doing? A piece of me is missing. And then also after that, we had also gone to Vegas, like with my husband, just him and I, and a couple of friends, and we went out and did our own time. But it was like, I was FaceTiming my kid all the time, and I was like, get the freaking off the phone. Like, stop calling me. And I'm
And
like,
maybe
I
it's easier
can't.
for me. I have to always remember too, like I come from divorce. It might, so I've been used to being away from my kids, because they're gone
Yeah.
for for a week at a time, especially when they were little. And so for me, like it's just easy, I guess. And I think that's what's a little bit different, but I'm telling you, you got to do it
Yeah.
One day we'll
one
get
day.
there.
No pressure.
No pressure. So, as you mentioned, you've been through divorce and you've been remarried. Um, what has that taught you about resilience and starting over?
Ooh, when I married my first husband, prior to that, I dated a lot of guys. Like I was, I never settled down. I was never one to like just have one boyfriend. Like I just, dated multiple guys. It was this thing. When I met my ex-husband, it was one of those things where I'm like, I don't want to be alone anymore. I really want to feel loved. I want to start a family. Like, because again, society is like, this is what you need to do. And I'm like 27, 28 years old, that I'm like, oh shoot, I got to do this. And so I got married, and I did love him at the time. I would never like discount that. And then we had two children, and then it was after my second child was born, I just didn't feel like this was the life that was meant for me. It was something that was deep rooted in me that I'm like, I felt like I was living in his life. I didn't feel like I was living my life. And so I started to read. I started listening to podcasts. That was kind of when podcasts started coming up. And then I read Rachel Hollis's Girl Wash Your Face book. And that for me, that was like a moment of like, oh, okay, I'm not happy where I'm at in my life, just in general. And so um I decided to leave him. And my son was 2 and my daughter was 5. So they were little. And it was definitely a hard decision. I mean, the number one reason was I didn't want to like break up my family for my children.
Mhm.
Um, was it hard? Absolutely. I met my current husband now shortly after. And so I was going through a divorce. He was also going through a divorce. And then blending families, like it has not been an easy road to get to where we are today, but I'm so much happier today. And I wouldn't be doing what I do now if I was still in that last relationship. So I really believe that if you're feeling something like in your body, or like something doesn't feel right, like we only have one life to live. And I think that we need to put ourselves first and lean into like listening to our bodies and listening to our hearts, and being like, this is not the life that like fuels me, and making the decisions. And whether that's leaving your husband, or it's changing the way you eat, or it's your career, or whatever it is, I really think that we have the ability, and we are number one person to lead it into a different path. And so I think that was like the biggest turning point for me to do something big in my life. And since then, I'm like, well, if I can do that, I can really do anything. And so that's probably why I'm so strong and so resilient in so many other ways. Cause I'm like, if I did that, I can do this. And facing your fears. I mean, that's, I think, something that most people talk about, but if I didn't face my fears, again, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have my beautiful, 3-year-old. I wouldn't have the career that I have now. I wouldn't be doing this podcast. I wouldn't have been a surrogate. There's so many things that I've done in my life since then that I'm like so thankful that I like listened to myself to make that change.
Yeah. My mom always says that too. My mom's been divorced twice, and um my dad, and then she divorced my stepdad. She's on her in her third marriage now, and she's happy. But she would say that all the time, like, if I could do that, like, I can do anything. Like, if I had the courage and the strength to leave your dad, which my dad was her first marriage, and it was very abusive. So I mean, obviously there was a totally different scenario, but it was still very hard. She had 3 kids, and she didn't, she was in a different country. She didn't speak the language. There was a lot of things. So it was like really hard for her to just like start over in a way. And so she was like, if I could do that, I could do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of crazy that you said the exact same thing. It's like, if I could do that, that was so difficult. Like, I can do anything. It does really build a lot of resilience inside of someone.
I think too, like the biggest number one reason people don't leave their spouse is because of their children. And kids are so resilient. Like, did I miss my kids up? Probably a little bit. I mean, who knows? Like, I'm sure, somewhere down the road, they're going to have therapy and they're going to be like, Mom left my dad. And it was like a whole thing. They're so resilient. And I get so many compliments from teachers, from our friends' parents, who are just like, the way you guys have navigated divorce and like raising your children together, like your kids are so resilient. They're so well behaved. They're so, you know what I mean? So I know that doesn't always happen, but I feel like if you always put your children first on like communicating with your ex, or I think there's a way to handle divorce in a very elegant way that will still keep your children thriving.
Yeah. And I mean, we all have trauma, right? My parents were divorced. I have trauma.
Me too.
Although I don't think it has anything to do with their divorce, to be very honest. The trauma that I have has to do with my mom and my dad, but not because they got a divorce.
Yeah.
And then, Yvette, I'm sure, has this trauma, and her parents have been together her whole life. They're still together today. So I feel like kids, we are going to mess up our kids in some way. So like, pick your poison, like it's going to happen one way or another. Yeah. But as long as I think kids really do need to see their moms happy and healthy and thriving. And I think that that's the most important thing for any child. Yeah. So the next question is, we want to talk about your surrogacy. I think it's a very beautiful thing that you did. I can't even imagine doing anything like that. So, number one, what kind of inspired you to even be a surrogate? But also, what is it like to, share the news with your kids that you'd be a surrogate? And how do you navigate those conversations?
So the first time I heard about surrogacy, I actually was at my old employer, and there was a girl there who was a surrogate. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, and I was so intrigued. Like when she told me, I'm like, what? Like, I had heard about it. Most, like you hear about like the Kardashians and all these like famous people doing it. But like to meet someone locally, I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I asked her all these questions, and I was like, And at the time, I had already had my 2 children, and I was like, I had really great births. My pregnancies were super successful. I never was sick. I loved being pregnant. I actually loved giving birth. It was like the weirdest thing in the world. And I was like, I think I could do this. And that was one of the things with my ex-husband that he was like, absolutely not. And I was like, there's something like, there's some calling in me that like feels like that is not the way that I want that to go. And so that was part of the decision to leave him. Fast forward, I met my new husband, and it kind of came up again, and I was like, I think I want to be a surrogate. And he was like, what? And he, he's Latino, and he's Catholic, and he was like, wait, what? Like, absolutely not. And I was like, just hear me out. Like, let's watch some videos. Let's, do some research. And so he was on board. So I've actually gone through 2 journeys. First, I met 2 gentlemen. They were from another country. That's the thing, is like surrogacy is not really like, literally this could be like a 5-hour conversation. But it's not, you can't do it in every state. And so, especially a lot of countries. And so I got matched. We did the transfer. They only had one embryo. It didn't take, and they decided to cancel. They already decided not to move forward. So then I went back into the pool, and then I met this amazing woman. She lives in Florida. She couldn't have a baby. She didn't have her own eggs. And obviously she was single, so she didn't have the sperm. So she did all of the things. And so my biggest why is obviously like giving, a family this like beautiful gift of life that they're not able to have for whatever the circumstances are. If I was 20, I literally would do this all the time. Like this would be like my job. I feel like I love doing it, but I'm about to hit 43, and so can't do it much longer. But it was such a beautiful experience. I have so many podcasts that I've recorded around my surrogacy journey. But this will be the first time I'm announcing it, and I'm actually recording a podcast after this. I'm about to go through a second journey, and my transfer date is May 21st. So I don't know when this is going live, but I am doing a second and last journey. It's with two men here locally in San Francisco, and I knew I wanted to do it one last time. And I was only going to do it for the first person, but she wasn't ready to have a second child. And so here we are. So it's one of those things that was easy for me. Like I'm not scared about it. Again, this will be my 5th pregnancy because I had my 2 children. I was a surrogate. Then I had my 3-year-old. And so this will be my 5th pregnancy. And I love being pregnant. Like everyone's like, you're always like glowing and you're so happy. And I've never like been sick. I've had great births. I've never had any complications, knock on wood. So I was like, let's just do it one more time. So we're going again. We're doing it again. And so that's kind of like my journey. This time, because the last journey was my first journey, now I've been through it, I really want to educate people and inspire people about surrogacy in general. I think people have a lot of questions. I think people have a lot of different opinions on it. People have misinformation on surrogacy. And so I'm really going to take this journey and educate. So I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to take people along on the journey. I'm going to do like a whole series on my podcast with different people. I would love to find a fertility doctor to come on and really talk about like the science of it. I want to bring on people who have been surrogates or who have had babies with a surrogate, and really just like educate people around it and normalize it a little bit, because I think people don't. And if I see another freaking Netflix movie that talks about how the surrogate falls in love with the dad, I'm like, come on, like that is not what this journey is about, right? So I just want to like make it a better experience for people. So that's kind of been my journey. And as far as telling my kids, when I told my kids the first time, they were little. My son was 5 and my daughter was 8. So I actually bought them a book, and it says like Mommy's the Surrogate, and I read it to them, and it really like helped them walk them through about what I'm doing for a family and that everybody is entitled to have a family. It's a really cool, really great book. So I read that to them, and I kind of like opened it up for questions, but they were so young that they didn't really kind of get it at the time. If somebody asked them like, "Oh, you're gonna have a brother or sister," they were always so good about saying, "No, mommy's having a baby for somebody else." And so they were really good about answering that question. I didn't really involve them a lot in stuff. They didn't know like the science. I told them after like I was already pregnant, so they didn't ask too many of like the science questions until this time. I've already told them about the second journey, and they're already especially my son, he's like, well, how do you get pregnant and what, so now I'm navigating kind of like those questions. They want to be involved in the process, but I really tell them like it's really up to them what they feel comfortable with. If they don't want to talk about it, they don't have to. If they want to be involved, they can. If they want to meet the parents, they can. Like I'm really leaving it up to them. On the last journey after I had the baby, the mom stayed here for a couple days. And so we went to the hotel they were staying at, and we got to meet the baby. Well, obviously I already met the baby, but my 2 kids wanted to meet her. And so I brought them. And so that was a really cool, special moment for them to see the baby and to like kind of full circle the experience. So this time it'll be a little bit different. They're older now, but they're somewhat supportive. I just know later in life they're going to be like, dang, my mom did that, you know, when they really can like put in perspective what it is that I'm doing. And I this time around I told them, I said, you're going to get to a point where you're going to have a baby and you might not be able to have one for whatever reason, and you might have to go through this journey. And so that's why I'm doing it. And so I think that for them was like, oh, so yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, you guys can ask any other questions. I'm an open book about it. I want to educate people, so will tell anything and anything.
Yeah, I think that's really cool that you're going to do a whole series on it. I definitely want to watch it on YouTube and hear all about it on, the podcast, because I don't know diddly squat about
Most
being a
people don't.
surrogate. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about being a surrogate. I mean, I did not enjoy either of my pregnancies, to be very honest.
Most people don't.
I love my children. I die for them. I would do anything for them. But I did not like being pregnant. And it's part of the reason why I do not want to have any more kids. I just don't want to go through pregnancy again. And then the worst part for me is like after the, baby blues, the postpartum depression, like that's where it gets also really bad for me. So kudos to you for doing this. I think it's beautiful work. But
And I think that was part of telling my journey too, is talking about the postpartum, because um obviously like I talked about it on social media a little bit, but when I gave birth, literally COVID happened the next week. So like the whole world shut down. So now I can't even go back to work to like get my mind off of it. I'm now stuck at home in a whole different type of life. And I really wish that I like had talked about it a little bit more. I think I did on one of the podcasts, but so I think people are probably interested in like the process after. I mean, every day I get new questions asked to me, which is so cool. And I write them down because I want this series to go back and I want to be able to like touch on some of the questions, because I'm like, someone's asking me, someone else probably wants to know too. So I'm an open book about all of it.
I was just curious, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but I was just curious if you are able to have any sort of relationship with the kids after, like even if it's just like seeing them in pictures, or if that's something that you're even interested in, or is it kind of like once you have the baby, it's like no, all connections are tied.
That's a great question. That's probably the one I get asked the most. So the first journey I went through an agency, and those are part of the questions that they ask you when you're going through this process. The process is it took, I think the first process took maybe a year and a half. This last one that like literally just signed the contract like a month ago took a year. So it does take some time. But those are the questions you ask. So I still talk to the mom, my first journey. I still talk to the mom. I get photos all the time. She sends me photos all the time. They live in Florida. I will visit her someday. She does know about me. She wants me to be in her life as whatever I feel comfortable with, and her daughter. And so she's 5, so she's now probably will start asking more questions, but I do get photos. I got a video on my birthday from her. It was super sweet. So we have a beautiful relationship. The journey I'm about to go on, they live in San Francisco and they would love to stay, connected. You really bond with these people. I've heard some horror stories, and sometimes it doesn't always go that way. I've been very blessed with so far my journeys, but these two gentlemen would love to stay connected. They still would love to have a relationship. I have a feeling we're going to be best friends after this. So again, it's just what you kind of agree on it ahead of time.
Yeah, I love that.
I was going to ask the same.
Mhm.
Sorry.
We were on the same wavelength. See?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you the same exact thing, but also like I have a nephew that came from a surrogate, and so I see that bond that kind of happens between the birth mom and my sibling, and it's pretty cool. Like she comes around, he calls her Auntie Nani, and I thought it was the cutest thing. But my mom would always say like, "Oh my God, he really like needs the mother in the life," because my brother's now single, and so a lot of it he's like a single dad and he does everything, and I see like him struggle and I try to help him, but he's also really attached to him, which I'm like, oh, I get it. And I know they go through like their own set of struggles once they go through the surrogacy process. And I think that was like something that did get brought up when they were going through the process. Like, what if they try to take him away? Or like, what if something happens? And like things like that. And I'm like, but I feel like I could never do it myself. Like, honestly, they had asked me if I wanted to do surrogacy. And I was like, no, like I can't, because I feel like I would want, like, I'm super connected to my own kids and there's like no way I could do it.
It's that's probably number two question I get is like the connection of it. It's very like it feels like a contract. And when you're really going through the process, right? Like even to the point of when they pass the embryo to you, it's very like this is the embryo of XYZ. You know, it's very like, okay, this baby is not mine. So I think because of that, it made it not feel like mine. Of course, like I still treated the baby like it was mine. Like I rubbed the baby. I love this, you know, when they like kick and all that other stuff. But when the baby came out and went to mom, like I wasn't sad. I was so happy because she was so happy and like she was crying and like I literally gave her the one thing that she wanted her whole life, right? And so
Yeah.
to me, that was like, that's what it was for. So I didn't have that emotion. Even like they stayed in another room and like it didn't feel weird to me. I said the one weird thing was like going home. You know, you go home, you know, you're holding the baby and you have all your baby stuff. And I just went out with like a empty wagon with, you know, diapers and all these things that I was gonna have to take care of myself. And so that part was a little weird, but then I went home and I was like, that was fine.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm intrigued by it. I can't wait to watch the series and
Thank
just
you.
know more about it because I don't think a lot of people know anything about it. Or at least most of the people that I probably talked to. I didn't even know that Yvette's brother, who I know, went through a surrogacy process. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's crazy. I was like, oh
Expensive.
my God, I know. It's a crazy process. And then like all the doctor visits and
Mhm.
like he was like, I want to go to the doctor visit. So I'm like, oh my God, like you get to go to all that? That's like I guess it's different with everybody's contract, like how involved
Yeah.
they actually are.
Yeah.
And then like if they have any kind of in relationship after the baby's born, which is pretty cool. I just props to you, girl, because I'm
Thank you.
like, I have my birthing and I'm over here like, oh my God, is my baby gonna be okay? Or like, I don't know. I like start,
Mhm.
helicopter momming over here. And so, that's just me. And I'm like, I don't think I could ever be a surrogate. So props to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Definitely cannot be a surrogate, but definitely congratulations to you.
There are people though, like that have thought about it. I mean, I probably get reached out a lot to people who are like, tell me more about it. Like they're thinking about it. And so there's another podcaster who's about to go through it as well. And so I'm here to like share the things and make them inspired to do it because again, there's a huge need for it. So
Yeah, I think it's really cool that in both instances you're able to still have some kind of relationship
mhm.
with the children, as long as everyone still feels comfortable. Because I mean, I can't, even though as a child, I don't know, like, I'm trying to like put myself into like the child's mind and how confusing it might be for them, so it's just nice that they can still reach out to you and if they have questions,
Mhm.
and as they get older, their questions will change. And I just think it's really cool that they're able to have that relationship with you and be able to ask you all the questions because I mean, I don't know. I can't even really imagine, but I'm sure as a child it might be confusing for
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other question I probably get asked a lot is it my embryo or like my DNA? And it's not. Like that was the one thing that I'm like, I would never be able to donate my eggs. Like I'm literally just the oven. The embryo is already pre-created with other people's sperm and other people's eggs. It is not mine. And so I think that's what also helps in my mind a little bit more that I'm like, this isn't my DNA that's going to be out in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but some people do it that way. I do not.
Yeah, that would
I
be
would,
twice
yeah.
as hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be twice as hard. Okay, so we also want to talk about your business that you kind of mentioned a little bit, Set and Strike and the Connection Hive.
Mhm.
What drives your passion for entrepreneurship and what challenges have you faced along the way?
I never thought I would be an entrepreneur ever, ever, ever in my life. But I do have to say, I always thought I used to work for Encore Event Rentals, which is a local rental company. My boss, Bridget, was woman owned, and to be a part of that process to watch this business grow, I was always so inspired. And like she kind of inspired me. I'm like, well, if she can do it, I got this, right? I never really thought though that I would get to that point. It was after the pandemic though when I saw such a labor need, and this is where Set and Strike kind of started. Set and Strike started first, so I saw such a need for labor. Like people needed help with setting up tables and chairs. There was a huge labor shortage, and I was like, well, we provided a service where rentals get dropped off or venues already have tables and chairs, and we just send the crew out. And so that's how Set and Strike kind of created. My husband used to work for Encore as well. We've been doing it together now 4 years. And every year it's gotten bigger and bigger, and it's been kind of fun. It's fun, like designing our logo and pinning a website, and like we get to grow the business. Like we've always worked for other people, so it's been fun to build this culture around the things that are important to us. So like we pay our guys really good, we compensate them well, we give them drinks on site, and we give them, like we want them to feel like part of the team. And so we're really trying to build this culture. I really want to, well, one, I want to grow it, but then two, I really want to figure out a way to support like teenagers. Like how do we work with the local schools, and like how do we engage people to want to be in the hospitality industry? So that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm taking a pause on the other business, is really to focus and grow this side of this business a little bit more. So the one thing I probably have learned about that is to get help. Is, when you're a business owner, there's so much to it. So this year I brought on a bookkeeper. I have some admin help to kind of help with the things that I'm not really strong at. Relying on like apps and technology to move the business forward and kind of like get into a system. So that's been super fun. I'm very much into sales. So like sales isn't hard, like those are the easy things, but the things that have been hard from us, we've been like outsourcing a lot. And then the Connection Hive, I've been doing sales and business development for like 20 years. And at my last job, I left Encore. I was there for 12 years, and I literally helped them build that business to what it is today. And so when I left there, I kind of like hit a wall, and I was like, I'm going to go explore another business. So I went and got a job for another company in the city, and doing business development. And I was like, I don't think companies need someone full time. I think they could probably get away with like somebody who could just do some consulting work. And so that's kind of where the Connection Hive came about. And basically I'm a consultant. So people hire me to help them develop a strategy around sales, mostly focused with building connections. Like, what are they doing for their clients? What are they doing for potential clients? Are they reaching out to, other vendors for support? What kind of partnerships are they working on? So really helping them kind of think outside the box on that. And then in the meantime, I've gotten sucked into a lot of events, because that's where my background is as well. So the Connection has been this hodgepodge of things. But I'm to a point now where I've been working so hard. Like I have been hustling so hard that I need to slow down. Like for me, for my family, listening to my son cry every single day that you have to go to work again. I don't want to work so hard anymore. I've been hustling for so long that I want to get my goal for Connection Hive moving forward is I really want to like create a course that people can learn how to run their business without me being there. And that's like giving them strategies, helping them build out, they can like help build their own plan and execute it. So that's kind of what's next for the Connection Hive. The Connection Hive, I really want it to be this like overarching thing, because I wanted to run, my retreats underneath it. I wanted to do this consulting thing and my podcast. And I wanted the connection to me is like what I think fuels me, whether that's in business or personal. And that's probably where my success has been, is connecting with people. And I love connecting other people. As soon as I meet people, I'm like, oh my gosh, have you talked to this person? Have you talked to this person? Like, I love doing that. So that's where like the name came.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is, I think the other thing is when you start a business, you think you have to know exactly what it is, and you have to have your packages lined up, and you have to have all these things. I think the one thing that I've learned is that you don't have to. I think you just start and just you kind of figure it out along the way. And that's really what the Connection Hive is. And it's completely changing come this year. I have 3 clients after June, and I'm going to take a little pause for a little bit to figure out what's next for that.
Kind of on the same lines as that, because you said you do love, connecting, and it's so important to have connections with different people. I think especially to make our businesses grow, even if something as simple as like the podcast, right? It's important to have connections and things like that. So what's one common mistake that you see businesses make when building connections?
Following up. Like literally following up. If you meet someone and you have this amazing conversation and you're like vibing, like send an email after, follow up. And if you don't hear from them, follow up again. I think so many people are like, okay, well, we had this great connection. It was great. They know that I'm there. But like, if you don't continue developing that relationship and building that trust and like building community off of that, like you're not going to go anywhere with it. And that's been the one thing, like everyone always goes, Heather, I'm so glad you always follow up or you always think of me or you always check in because that's what's important, especially for businesses who need new business. Like if you aren't reaching out to your potentials to be like, hi, I'm here. Like, here's what my business is. They're going to forget about you and they're going to move on to the next. So I think it's very, very important to stay in front of people, even if you feel like you're annoying, but it doesn't need to be annoying. Sales is not annoying. That's really what you're doing is sales, but in like, I say it in like a very nice way, of a very approachable way. I mean, even this weekend we were at an event and it's a fundraiser event and they're like, we want people to like get up and go to the auction, but we don't want to sound salesy. I'm like, you don't, you go up and be like, oh my gosh, did you see all those cool items over there? Like, I hope you bid on your favorite one. Like, it doesn't need to be this, like, you better go buy something. It's like, no, like you got to be, if you're light and airy about it and like fun about it, it doesn't feel so like sales pitchy.
Yeah. And I feel like that can also relate to even just like in little things like friendships, right? Like how important is it to reach out to our friends and our family and the people that we care about and just say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, like it's something so simple and you're putting it in such a bigger scale, but it's like, yeah, it's really that simple. Like just reach out to people, let them know you care about them, that they're important, that they matter, that you see them.
Yep.
Right. And that makes such a difference in someone's life. You know, if you just, I don't know, like for me, even when somebody is just like, hey, I was thinking about you, how are you doing? Like it just makes my day.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like hard
No.
or scary. And then I even say just engage with them on social media, like or comment or like, hey, I see you. Good job. That was really cool or whatever. Just like staying top of mind, but in like a non-salesy way.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. That's great advice. So you did talk a little bit about the retreats. Is that through the Common Ground Society?
The Common Ground Society is a local nonprofit. They're the fundraiser I actually just did. I met Larkin actually through community, through my podcast. And she's like, will you come help us plan this gala? And I was like, sure. But I've always been a big believer in community work. I sat on the board for SAY. I volunteer at the food bank. I really believe that doing things for the greater community is super important. And so I've always have always pushed for that, or I'm always working on a project. I support Catwalk, which is the Sutter Health fundraiser in October. So I always have like my little hands in things. And so I just supported Common Grounds this last weekend. And then the retreats is something that I'm doing with my friend Alicia Park. She's a local photographer, but she also is a yoga instructor. And so between her like yoga, spiritual, grounding, beautiful things that she does, and I'm more of like entrepreneur, like connecting, inspiring, we've created these women's retreats. So we've had 2-night overnights and 3-day retreats. And so we'll continue doing that. We're going to do like full day retreats where women come and we have inspirational speakers that talk about health and wellness or inspirational. We do a little bit of spiritual practice, whether that's a sound bath or spiritual readings. And really it's a space for women to get away from their crazy life and to focus on themselves and to lean into living the life they love.
I love that. I'm kind of backtracking a little bit to what you said about, you know, how important it is to give back to our community and kind of give back to support different organizations that maybe you're passionate about. To me, it's really important to kind of teach my children to be generous. Yeah. Whether that's with their time or, you know, money in whatever capacity they can. I think we live in a society where it's all about like me, me, me. Yeah. And something that like really irks me when I hear somebody say like, oh, well, you know, my life was hard. When I was young, we had to work 3 jobs. And it's like, well, why? Because your life sucked. Why does our life have to suck? You know, like I hate that mentality that like, because my life was hard, your life has to be hard. You know, it's like, shouldn't we want the next generation's life to be better and better and better each year? So I think it starts with something so small as just teaching our kids to be generous and teaching our kids to give back to in any capacity that they can. You know, my son just had this art walk at his school. It's like a fundraiser that they do every year, where they have to run a bunch of laps around the school. And for each lap, they like, he went and asked family members like, oh, I'm going to pay you $1 for each lap, or I'm going to pay you 50 cents for each lap. Right. In his mind, he thought he was going to get the money.
Oh, mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
this week,
fundraising.
Yeah. So this weekend we had to have that conversation with him. Like, no. Like, this was for your school. And he's like, but I don't want to give the money to my school. And I'm like, no, like, this is important. Your school, your teachers, they need your support for, you know, there's some kids that their parents can't pay for fundraisers, so they get the money over here. They can't buy them school supplies, so they need, you know, to fundraise money. So just teaching him like, no, like, this is, you need to give back to your school. And he's still having a hard time because he did fundraise, I think, like $200. So that's a lot of money for a 9-year-old. So he's still trying to process why he has to give those $200. But I'm like, no, it's important. You need to give back.
It's so important that we teach our children now, like, how important it is. My 2 older kids, we've went to the food bank and we've done volunteering there. My daughter came to the SAY event fundraiser last year or 2 years ago when I produced that event as well, and she came and helped. And so I really believe in that and getting them exposure around that. I do most of my community work. I really do focus on youth because I think that's obviously what's most important to me right now is how do we educate our children to be better people. And that's why I love Common Ground Society. They help serve families who have children with disabilities. And her message is be the one to say hi, be the one to smile, be the one to be kind to children who might be different than you. And I like literally get chills because I love the message that she's doing. She goes into schools, she educates them. And that is why I decided to support her in that, even though I'm like, I don't ever want to do an event again. It was so cool to see her on stage and see the impact that she's making. And I was like, that's the why.
I love that.
I've never heard of Common Ground Society, but I'm going to have to look them up.
You have to look them up. She's doing some great work. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm part of her.
She's going to
Facebook
change
group.
the world.
Yeah, I'm part of her Facebook group, and I've been telling her, like, I always send people that way because I have a special needs kid myself. But when I come into, like, I refer her, her information, and people are like, is it in Spanish? I'm like, no, it's not. But if you need translation, like, let me know. And so I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how to best
You need to meet with her. I had mentioned us talking about that. I'll make a note to connect you guys because she was totally for it. So I think that would be a great thing for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Is there anything else you kind of want to tell us about the retreats or the work that you do there? I know that we talked a little bit about that at the beginning, but I know you just
I think it's more for a woman who needs a change in their life, whether that's their kids are going off to college, whether it's a career transition, whether it's they have little kids and they need to find themselves, whether they're just feeling stuck. Like, it's a really great space to come and like be inspired. You'll meet so many great women who are doing really cool things. It's really cool to see the lives that we're changing and holding space for these women. So yeah, you can follow me. I will be posting our next ones. We'll have one coming up in July and then another overnight in October. But that again is the work that I want to like slow down doing everything else and really do that because that's where the work is. That's the good work.
I love it. Yeah, I'm gonna be on the lookout for that. So thank you for sharing. So the last 2 questions that we like to ask our guests are, what's the best advice that you've ever received, and what is the worst advice that you've ever received?
I think that sometimes people think that entrepreneurs, you should stay like head down and focus on your own business, or you shouldn't you shouldn't be friends with your competition, or you shouldn't I really think building community and building and supporting each other. Like, I support a lot of small businesses. Like, we all get together and we talk and we're like, hey, what are you doing for this? Or how, what platform are you using for this? Who are you using for a bookkeeper service? I think like really being able to like lean on people. I think there's this like thing that people are like, okay, this is your business and you need to stay focused. And I think you do to an extent, but I think it's okay to like support each other and like build community around that. And that kind of comes to mind because I've been hearing little things through in our community of like, let's just support each other, right? Like, even though we're doing the same thing, like we're here. Like this girl just shows up in Sonoma County. She's not even from around here. And she actually has almost the same freaking name. Her name is Heather, and she has the same like business name as me. So I'm like, could I be like mean and talk about it? No. What if I reached out to her and we build community, right? So I don't let things like that bother me. Best advice. Whew. I mean, my advice is to follow your gut, to follow, like, be inspired, be curious. And I said this earlier, you only have one life to live. And I think it's super important that you do the things that you enjoy doing, that bring you joy. Surround yourself around people that bring you joy and not people that bring you down. I guess that's my advice. And I've actually heard that quite a bit more lately. And so I'm going to stick to that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I love that you said that we should be supportive of one another. I firmly believe that. I mean, if you look at things like, animals travel in packs, right? The wolf pack. I don't remember what the whale ones are called, but like whales travel in, whatever they're called, they're pods. I think they're pods or, so it's like we all are supposed to be surrounded by community.
Yep.
And we are stronger together. And I've never understood that mentality where it's like, oh no, I don't want to help them because I want to be the best. We should strive. We will be the best, but together.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a room for everyone. There really is room for everyone at the table.
Yeah.
And so I love that you reaffirmed that because I'm a big believer in that as well. And I loved the best advice as well. I definitely agree that we should just strive to, be the best version of ourselves that we can be.
And be kind. Let's just
Please,
smile at people and let's not
kind.
honk at people all the time. Like, let's just be nice. Can we?
Yes, thank you. So can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, I think the best spot is my personal Instagram, which is heathernelson.life. I also have an Instagram account for the Connection Hive, which is the.connection.hive. My podcast is on all of the podcast platforms, and it's called Life Conversations with a Twist. And if you do listen to something, please review me. That's like my biggest thing now. You guys know it's like, oh, I need to get reviews. Oh, yeah, all the things. And then my website is theconnectionhive.co, not co. And that is there for now, but I'm going to be redoing that soon to showcase all the projects I have going on.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Heather, for being here with us today. We learned so much from you. You are so kind, so gracious, and so fun to talk to.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you so much. You're just like natural at conversation. So thank you so much for being here. We really learned a lot from you. I'm sure our listeners will learn so much, and hopefully they will go follow your page and follow your podcast as well, because there is a lot of really good conversations there with a lot of really cool women.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. And you guys will be on soon, so they'll have to tune in for that. Yeah.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Yes.
So
thank you.
And as usual, everyone, please go to the Instagram page, follow us there. If you have not, follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to this. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, comment anything that maybe you learned today or that you liked from this conversation. And we love you all so much, and we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.